You're watching Mrs. K's Healthy Eating channel, and we're here to help you to eat well and get cooking. Today we're going to continue with our session on the Eat Well guide, and today is actually session 4. So if we just have a look at our Eat Well guides, if you've got one in front of you, that's great. Otherwise, just have a look at this one. You can see that we're progressing really well around our guide. We've done the big section of fruit and vegetables. We did that session 1. We've done the carbohydrate and fiber section of section 2. Then last week we did this very tiny, you can barely see it, section called fats and oils. And the reason it is so tiny is because we have to watch our calories when we eat fats and oils. They are very important for our bodies, but we need to eat them in a small proportion. Okay, now today we're on to the blue section, which is over here. And that blue section is called dairy. Dairy and also dairy alternatives, because not everyone eats dairy. So we're going to discover what alternatives we can eat to dairy foods as well as the normal dairy foods that we eat. Right, so let's get looking at it. Let me take that out of the way. Right, why should we be eating dairy? What is so important about dairy? Remember, we're here to ask these questions. What is the point of having so much dairy? Now, there's a secret word called the C word, and it's Ca. Anyone guess? Calcium, you've got it. Calcium is the key to dairy foods. Now, I've got our display here of dairy foods. Milk, we've got our skimmed milk, semi-skimmed, creme fraiche, clotted cream, about which I'm going to have something to say, yogurt, cream cheese. All these things count. Oh, and of course, cheese, good old block of cheese. Okay, so let's look. These are all animal products, and a lot of people don't eat, vegans, vegetarians may not want to eat this. How much calcium do you need, and why do you need it? Well, the most important time to eat calcium is actually up to the age of 18, where you actually have to eat more calcium than after that age. You still have to keep eating calcium for all your life, because your bones begin to lose density, they lose some of the calcium, and it's got to be replaced. So calcium is a vital part of all of our diets, all our lives. But between 11 and 18 is when your skeleton grows to its full height. Now, if calcium is important for bones, it is obviously vital for your skeleton. And in fact, if you don't eat enough calcium between the ages of 11 and 18, you could actually be shorter than you should be, because you haven't allowed your skeleton to grow properly and to its maximum height. Now, your bone density is being created and developed during those ages. You actually reach what is called peak bone mass. In other words, whatever you've put into your bones and how full they are of calcium depends on how much calcium you're eating between the age of 11 and 18. And that will set you up for the rest of your life. So if you haven't eaten enough calcium and you haven't filled up those bones with lots of calcium before you're 18, you will develop problems later on in life. You will have weaker bones, you will break your bones more easily, and you set yourself up for a disease known as osteoporosis, which is where the bones become more and more fragile, and when you break them, it's more and more serious. So I can't tell you enough how important it is for you, especially during that age group, as teenagers and as younger children, to get into the habit of eating enough calcium for the day. So how much calcium do we need? Now, actually, if you look on different websites, I was looking at an American website. They actually put down their levels of calcium much higher than the UK. They say that all teenagers, irrespective of whether you're a boy or a girl, male or female, you should be eating 1300 milligrams. In Britain, what we're saying is the Eat Well guide recommends 800 milligrams for girls and 1000 for boys per day. Adults should have about 700 a day. So you can see there is more. And of course, boys develop bigger frames, and so they need to eat more calcium. Okay, so if we look at 800 to 1000 milligrams of calcium a day, so what gives us this 800, this figure that we don't really understand? Okay, so if I take a block of cheese, that block of cheese there weighs 40 grams. That will have about 200 milligrams of calcium. So that's 200. So that's not a lot of cheese actually. And this actually is a low-fat variety. Always watch out with dairy, because dairy can be very high in fat. So we need to choose lower fat varieties. Okay, so there's our cheese. Cottage cheese. Now this is also Philadelphia for making cheesecakes, for example. Good amounts of calcium, 200 milligrams, and this is a larger pot than normal. There's 300. So in here you're going to have about 300 milligrams of calcium. It's about 100 to 100. Okay. Yogurt, 125. So one of your small pots of yogurt that you would normally buy in the supermarkets. This is a large pot. There's 500 grams in here. But 125 milligrams of yogurt, so probably about that much, contains 200 milligrams of calcium. So we've got a piece of cheese, 200. If we have a yogurt, that's another 200. A glass of milk. Now, strangely enough, the low-fat varieties of milk, so you've got your blue top, which is your full cream milk, which is important for children under 5. Then you've got your semi-skimmed milk, which is far better for you as teenagers to be having. And then there's skimmed milk, which is 0 fat. But these two and blue milk have exactly the same quantities of calcium. So by drinking the red skimmed milk, if you're needing to reduce your fat or you don't enjoy fatty milk, you're still getting the same amount of calcium. Now, 1 glass of 200 milliliters, so let's measure 200 mils. That's up to here. 200 mils is equivalent to 200 milligrams of calcium. So, in a day, we've got here 200 of cheese, so that's 2. You've got 2 of your yogurt is 200 milligrams, so that's 400 out of your 800. A glass of milk is another 200, so you've got 2, 4, 6. You've got up to 600. So now we need to have some more. How could we be having some more? For example, when you're having your breakfast and you probably have porridge or cereal, you would be adding milk to that. Perhaps not quite as much as that, but certainly at least half as much. So that's another 100. You could perhaps have 2 yogurts a day, or you could have some extra cheese. Now, no matter which you can have, if you don't like cheese and you don't like yogurt and you only like milk, it's fine. You can just have 4 glasses of milk for all your calcium needs. Or you don't like milk but you love yogurt, have more yogurt. And what we also need to do is, the strange thing with calcium is that the body finds it hard to absorb. It's quite a tough one for the body, so it takes a long time. So what they recommend is that you eat calcium through the day. You don't just have all the calcium in one meal. So a glass of milk with your cereal in the mornings, perhaps a piece of cheese at lunchtime, or a yogurt, or cheese in the evening and a yogurt at lunchtime. For example, if you take some of these, they've got much lower rates of calcium. So you're looking at maybe 50 milligrams of calcium for a portion of beans. Even pasta, our pasta has some calcium, small amounts of calcium, nothing like the dairy, but still has calcium because the government has fortified certain products with extra calcium. Just like this milk said, it was fortified. That means it's been added in. Extra calcium has been added in to make sure, because almonds are not as high as some of the dairies, they want to make sure that when you're drinking these other kinds of milks, that you're still getting a good amount of calcium. So they've had calcium added into it. Now, the same thing happens with white flour. Now, I don't know if you remember, when we did our carbohydrate section, I said to you it was better to eat wholemeal flour with all the brown bits because that gave us fiber. But it doesn't only give us fiber. It's got calcium in it. So we're getting a small amount of calcium from whole wheat flour and whole wheat bread. But white flour, of course, has been stripped of the bran, and so this calcium's been stripped out as well. So what the government has told bread makers is they have to add calcium into white flour. So anything made with white flour will necessarily contain some calcium. And so pasta is made from flour. Now this is a half-half, which is what I recommend. If you can't eat wholemeal flour pasta, which is the very dark brown, and some people are just put off by it, then fine, go for a compromise. And so here we've got our half-half pasta, which will contain added calcium. So today in our practical, we're actually going to make something with pasta that is high in dairy. And if you don't have dairy products, you could use the alternatives for making our sauce. So that's for later on. Now, what else do we need to look at? We've looked at how much calcium there is in each portion. We've looked at how much you need in a day. And we've also looked at the various quantities that you need to have. So you've got all the necessary knowledge now for how much to eat. But there's one big problem. Calcium cannot be absorbed without a partner. Does anybody know what that partner is? It's sunshine. Vitamin D. Calcium, you can have all this calcium and it will just go straight out. It won't be absorbed by your bones. This is a strange way our body works. But it needs to be partnered with vitamin D. Now, vitamin D we get from the sunshine. I always call vitamin D the sunshine vitamin. And you should be spending 20 minutes a day in sunshine without sunscreen. Now, that's only 20 minutes. I don't mean longer, so you can put your sunscreen on after that. I'm sure just by going for a walk or walking to school, or at the moment when we can't walk to school, just going outside, taking a bike ride, you will be getting lots of sunshine. Now, 10 minutes twice a day is probably better than 20 minutes all at once, because you'll be eating calcium products during the day, and I've just said to you it's hard for the body to absorb, so it's going to need extra bits of vitamin D during the day. So those of you though who live indoors, and at the moment with the virus we're having to stay indoors, and so a lot of us, because we live in a flat perhaps, where else can we get our vitamin D? So if we can't get vitamin D, and also in the winter, don't forget, we have very little sunshine in this country. Some countries have lots of sunshine all year round, but we don't. So in the summertime, great, we can get it from the sunshine, but in the wintertime, we've got to look for it elsewhere. And that's the reason why the government has fortified certain of products that children eat a lot. So breakfast cereal, we said that last time. breakfast cereals have been fortified with vitamin D, and vitamin D is had with milk, so the two go together. So you've got your vitamin D in the cereal and you've got your milk from your calcium from your milk. So we can get our vitamin D from other sources. So if you have a problem with getting into the sunlight, or the problem is also a lot of British children are we're finding that there's a lack of vitamin D in their diets because they're spending so much more time on computer games, on tablets, indoors, and they're not getting outdoors as much. That will have an effect on how much calcium you're absorbing. So remember that. You can eat calcium 2, 3, 4 times a day, but you need to have the vitamin D input as well as. They work together. So you need to make sure that your lifestyle includes getting out, getting outside. And apparently sitting behind glass in sort of a conservatory doesn't count. You have to be outside in direct sunlight and not behind a window. And they're often finding that a problem with older people who are sitting in conservatories because they're so frail and behind glass, and apparently that does stop the absorption of vitamin D. So these are all the things that we need to remember. So not only do we have to remember to eat our calcium in whatever form, and there are certain vegetables which have tiny amounts of calcium, which is what I'm going to be using in our practical today. Cauliflower has a bit of calcium. Broccoli has calcium. We said that broccoli was so high in vitamin C and fiber and vitamin B, but also in calcium. So an amazing vegetable is a broccoli. We're going to find calcium in a few vegetables, so you can supplement your calcium as on top of the dairy products. One thing I haven't mentioned, I didn't pick up the clotted cream. Now, most people are under the illusion that cream contains calcium. It doesn't. It's a dairy product. It is just very full of fat, and some people enjoy it very much. I love to have a scone with clotted cream. But don't be fooled into thinking that it's part of your calcium intake. The other thing that is not considered a healthy intake of calcium will be ice cream. Ice cream is made of cream and is high in sugar. And butter. Butter also has no calcium. But something butter does have is vitamin D. Vitamin D has been added into all butter and spreads. All your spreads for your sandwiches will have added vitamin D. Because the idea is, if you have a piece of bread which has calcium in it, either white fortified or whole wheat bread, which is naturally high in calcium, has calcium, not high, but it does have calcium. Then you're going to take your spread and put it on, and that contains vitamin D. So there you've got your vitamin D and calcium partnering on your sandwich. And so that is a good way. Same as when we made our pizza, for example. We've got the pizza dough, which is made with flour, which is fortified with calcium. Plus, we've got our cheese on our calcium, on our pizza. And so we're having high portions, and we can add vitamin D. We could add some fish to our dish, so that we're trying to think of ways that we can partner vitamin D with calcium. But don't forget, don't stress. If you follow the whole Eat Well guide and look at all the different sections, there's all an overlapping. So if you're following this Eat Well guide, you're going to find that you're eating things that partner with each other without even realizing it. Right, okay, I think that's about it for our lesson on calcium. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to teach you how to make a meal which is high in calcium. So time now to wash hands, clean surfaces, and get prepared for cooking.